Okay, so thanks a lot for joining us today. We're with 320 something, well, four. Well, no, I guess I'm not 20. It was. But I got 320 somethings, right? Introduce yourself, starting with Kaylee, and what's your situation?
I'm Kaylee. I'm 20 years old.
20 years old, 1 year of college?
Yes.
Okay, not going to college anymore.
No, I came home this summer and I worked at a coffee shop for about this fall. And then I got my real estate license and now I'm in the real estate industry.
Love it. Love it. She's going to be a real estate salesperson. And what's our hope out of this?
To invest.
Love it. So in my view, and I wish somebody would have told me this when I was your age, the way Zaid, 16-year-old that was working with us, did and is doing. But I wish somebody would have told me, save a few bucks, invest in a property, and start building your wealth, because your greatest asset, all three of you, is time, right? 20 years from now, you're going to be 40 somethings. 30 years from now, you're only going to be 50 somethings like me. And, but you're going to, unlike me, you're going to have 30 years of asset building. I was always worried about income. Mm-hmm. How much money can I make, right? I want to make $1 million a year. Right? Have you ever seen the logs where the people run on the logs in the water? And the faster you run, the faster the log goes. That's income. You can run and run and run. And then especially when you start spending and you start doing all this stuff, you got to invest in an asset that throws off cash. All right. We'll get into that. Jackson, what's your story?
My name is Jackson Stanford, 23, recent graduate of the University of Florida. Go Gators. Graduated in August, got a insurance sales job week after. Love the industry, love being able to talk to people on the daily. Hated insurance, hated having to talk about terrible things all day with people who couldn't care less. So, started looking at other industries. What do I do? Do I go take A salary, B, whatever it is, find these benefits, try to make it work, move to a big city? Or do I kind of try to learn for a little while, find something to do, or something I'm passionate about, something where I really feel like I can learn, help others, and have conversations with people daily? And so started with this real estate journey and excited to see where I can go with it. Cool.
And is your plan to also earn some money so you can invest and create some cash flow?
Yeah, for sure. My goal is to, earn a living wage, but really roll that stuff back into something that's going to pay dividends in the long run. Really try to play the long game with finances, not try to play the look what I'm driving now and look what house I own right now.
Smart. And then Anna, what is your story?
Well, I have a little bit different of a timeline, I guess, but I didn't go to college and I was fortunate enough to be able to buy my first house last year about.
Right. And you're 21?
Yes.
Nice. Right. So that's super cool.
Yes.
Super cool. Now let's talk about this for a quick minute. You were able to buy your first house. You didn't go to college, all that stuff, right? Kaylee's got a little college. Jackson, you graduated. But Anna, you were fortunate. You got some income coming in and you built up some money.
Yes, I saved my money up knowing I wanted to move and buy a house.
Yep. And then, so here's the way it works, guys. I'm her dad, right? So you and I, we went in together, right? And we own that house.
Because most of the time at a young age, they don't give you the loans on your own.
Very difficult. You were young, no credit history. Even though you had some money, you couldn't get that big of a loan and whatever. And so fortunately, we're in a position we could help you out, and we renovated the house. Now, I better ask you, because I know what I think. What's the plan for you in that house?
Well, the plan is to stay there a couple of years and then rent it out and buy another property.
Nice. So guys, listen to this, right? So she got a little bit of a different story. We all have our own tale to tell, right? So she got into her first house. She was going to buy an apartment, right? Or not buy an apartment. We were looking at apartments, right?
I was going to rent an apartment because I couldn't find a house that I liked.
Okay. But then when you see that the rent cost...
The rent for a 2-bedroom in Destin was like $3,000 was
it's
kind
insane.
of the cheapest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which that was more than I was paying in Atlanta.
Right? And it's more than you're paying for your house right now. Is that true?
Way more.
Yeah.
That's for a 2-bedroom without utilities or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So we started, wait a minute, you're going to rent for how much when we can buy and own and build equity?
And that rent money is just going out the door forever.
Yep. So now you got a house, we renovated it, you love it,
Yeah.
right? It's already up in value. So yeah, great plan. So you're going to live there for a couple of years. This is the way it works. You live in it for a couple of years, right? You have a roommate, right?
Yes.
And he's paying some of the rent, right? Okay. So that's a good situation. Okay. And at some point you're going to move out and this house will become your first investment property. And over time, renters are going to pay it down. Appreciation, inflation is going to run it up. In the meantime, you'll pull out some equity from that house and buy your next house. That may or may not be your forever house. It may turn out to be your second investment property, right?
Well, you would say to keep going, never stop.
Never stop, right? Buy and hold. We looked at a graph earlier. We had a live. If you get a chance, go back and watch our live, or Thursdays at 5, we do a live.
Live at 5.
Live at 5, baby, where we talk about these things. And one of the things we talked about was buy and hold, because over time, these things go up in value. Jackson, Kaylee, you all live at home right now, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
No, does that suck or is it okay?
Could
It
be
doesn't
worse.
suck.
Could be worse.
Right?
It's honestly smart to, instead of pouring out your money to rental, like,
Totally.
Yes.
This is such an advantage if you guys can use this time with your parents. And not everybody has that. I mean, let's be honest, not everybody has this. But if you can use that time, suck it up, live with your parents, and build up some cash such that you can put a down payment. If I was you, especially being in the real estate game like you are now, and for anybody out here, start looking at real estate, not as a place to live, but as a place to invest that you can live in.
Exactly.
Okay. I wish I would have done that. I spent tens of thousands of dollars on rent and all kinds of stuff. I wish I would have figured out how to buy, because there's a lot of ways to buy. You can say, oh, I don't have any money or whatever. You'd be surprised how many ways there are to buy. Okay.
well, and I didn't realize that the first time homeowners loan it gives you a pretty good amount. Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's all kinds of things. There's all kinds of financing. There's investors. You can go in with somebody, find somebody who will buy the place with you, and you become the renter, and then they move it over. Maybe it's your parents, maybe it's an outside business person, or maybe it's there's lease purchase. You can find somebody who's willing to sell, but they don't want to go through all the rigmarole, so they're going to sell it to you, and you just start paying them. There's a million ways to do it, but where you have to start is your mindset is, I'm just going to rent for a while I get my stuff together. Don't rent for a while, get your stuff together. Live at home if you can, if that's your thing. But if you are renting, try to shorten that rent period, because you're just throwing money away. Figure out, start talking to lenders, and in time, these guys will be able to help you out with creative financing. Roommates. House hacking is what that's called. Find out what it would cost to buy. You have a 2-bedroom house, right? You can have a roommate. If the roommate pays half the cost, all of a sudden you're sitting good until you get enough equity, right? The value of the house goes up, and you can move out, take the equity in a cash out refi or something like that, buy the next house for yourself. The new roommate moves in, will offset your lost income or whatever that you were paying, and now you got somebody else paying for your house. Your return might not be great, but if it's somebody else is paying that house for you, such that in 25, 30 years, which seems like forever, but I'll tell you, when you get to my age, it'll be like that. It'll be paid for by somebody else. Plus, it'll go up in value. And it might even throw off a couple $100 a month. That might be enough to cover, I don't know, gym membership or who knows what. Somebody else is buying your gym membership for you.
So I have a question. So Anna, you're 21, I'm 20. I obviously want to get into a house. Like we talked about in our live, the best time to invest is now and hold. I have car payment, and I also have school debt, but I do want to invest. What step do I take next? Because obviously I want to get out of debt as soon as possible, but I obviously want to be investing as soon as possible.
Great question. First thing I would tell you to do is this. Can I get a loan to buy a house with my current debt structure? If you can, then the question is can I buy a house that's going to be cash flow positive, right? You and a roommate buy a house. You and the roommate are paying, and when your two combined incomes are the mortgage, the taxes, insurance, utilities, plus $300. Then
multiple roommates to pay the mortgage.
Or two roommates. Anytime you get extra money, then you take that extra $300, apply it to your most expensive. If your car payment is 2%, don't do that. If your school payment is 6 or 7%, pay that down. And now all of a sudden somebody else is paying down your other stuff.
So you're doing both at the same time.
If you can swing it. Now that's a hard swing. Mm-hmm. It's a hard swing. But you might have to have two roommates, right? You might have to share a bedroom. How gross is that? But I'll tell you what, when I first moved out and I lived in Chicago with my roommates, I lived in the walk-in closet. That was my bedroom.
But those are some of the best times, I think. I loved having my roommates.
Yeah.
Everyone at school has 3, 4, maybe even 5 roommates, and it's the best time.
If you go anywhere else in the world, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And wouldn't you rather have roommates in your 20s than your 50s?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
I don't know. Who's the roommate again? I don't know. But yeah, I think, all right, we'll wrap this up because this is going a long time. But what I want you to do, my point of this whole thing, you guys, and we'll get together from time to time, talk about this. I want you to think strategically. All right. Don't think, I'm just going to rent till I get something going. No, start to think, all right, I got to start looking for, when you guys are doing this, you're in the game every day now. Where can I find a property that I can buy cheap enough? Might not be Gulfront, might not be, but where I can buy it and it's cheap enough that if I live in it with somebody else or two somebody else's, that I'm going to be able to have it covered. All right? Have it covered. That your debt is covered. There's good debt and there's bad debt. Bad debt is credit card debt, where you're buying well, you got to buy groceries, but don't go on trips. Don't go to the steakhouses. Dave Ramsey, right? Don't go on trips. Don't go on steakhouses or whatever. Stay home and cook instead. Mm-hmm. You can splurge once in a while. I mean, we want to live, but go on little trips. Don't go on big trips. And don't use credit card debt because it's 20%, 21%. Yeah. Killer. Get good debt. Good debt is when you borrow from the bank to buy an asset that appreciates in value and gets paid down and throws off money. That's good debt.
Yes.
All right. Bad debt. And I'm not sure where I sit on college, if that's good or bad debt. Depends. It depends on the person and what you're doing. So yeah, be strategic. Start looking at where can I buy that I can live, on a 3 or 4 scale out of 10. I don't have to, my first place doesn't have to be an 8 or 9. You got in a good situation. Good for you. You're fortunate. You guys are fortunate in your ways too, because you get to live at home and now you're in the business. You can pull the curtain back and see. And I'll guarantee you, just start to explore. Everyone, you out there too. What are my financing options? We sat with Zaid, he's 16 years old, and a lender said, we can get you into a house. He works at the movie theater, going to school at high school. We can get you into a house. They can get you into a house. So, great question. Think strategically. Okay. Anything to add? To your 20-something people out there, what would you say?
On top of think strategically, I would say start now.
Good plan. What do you say?
I would say to the recent college graduates, I know it's tough. I know you're paying your loans. I know you're paying your rent. And I know you're just scraping by, but you got to start thinking 5 years down the line. I know it's tough to not think till Friday and what I'm going to do. Will I get my bonus check this year? But the earlier you start looking and the earlier you start seeing what I can and what I can't do, you've already won.
Perfect. You got any thoughts?
I would just stay optimistic. And if you have to pick up a serving job at night, do that, do what you need to do, and just keep working to it.
I worked at Foot Locker. I worked at Copperfield Grill. I worked at TGIF. I've worked a lot of places. I sold art door to door, for God's sake. You do what you got to do, right? So there you go. 20-something-year-olds, awesome. Think of your 40-year self, and if you can be sitting at 40, financially independent, it matters. Okay, we'll see you soon.